সবচেয়ে আগে আমি যেটা বলতে চাইছিলাম তা হচ্ছে মুনিয়া আমার বিস্তুত বোন, ছোটবেলা থেকেই ওকে দেখে এসেছি। আর জোজো আমার দাদার মতনই, যদিও কোনোদিন ওকে দাদা বলে ডাকি, জোজো বলেই দেখেছি। তা আজকে মুনিয়া নেই, জোজো আছে, এরকমই নিয়ম, একজন যাবে একজন থাকবে। এবং এই সময় আজকে অনেকেই খুবই দুঃখ করছে, অনেকের চোখে দেখলাম জল এসে গিয়েছে। রবীন্দ্রনাথ অন্য একটা লেখার মধ্যে বলেছিলেন যে শ্রাদ্ধের দিনে অনেকের মনে শোক ভারাক্রান্ত হয়ে ওঠে। তিনি লিখে গেছিলেন, শ্রাদ্ধ দিনটা শোকের দিন নয়, এই দিনটা শ্রদ্ধার দিন। যেদিন তিনি আমাদের সামনে ছিলেন, রক্ত মাংসের শরীরে ছিলেন, তখন তো তাকে দেখতেই পাচ্ছি তিনি আছেন। যখন তিনি নেই, তাকে দেখতে পাচ্ছি না, সেই সময় তাকে কল্পনা করা যে তিনি আমাদের মধ্যে আছেন, সেইটাই হচ্ছে আসল শ্রদ্ধা জানাতে। এটা রবীন্দ্রনাথ অন্য একটা লেখায়। In English, I would just say a few words in more inadequate English. It's not possible to really translate Rabindranath like this. He said that for a household, it is very difficult to really call God and ask to be at one with Him. To do that, but I should leave space for God. In our normal household life, we do not have space. However big our household, wherever God is to come, we need to make space for it. And all the space is meant really for something that we keep on thinking that, well, this is for this work, this is for that person. So ultimately, when the great day comes, we come face to face with God when there is death. And death is something that is really not just a day of mourning. It is something that brings us close to God. So we have to, if we really want to be at one with God, we have to give up our claim to the world around us, so that that is the one way which we can be at one.
Sri Hiranmay Kalekar, Yonuda, most of us over here, certainly Yonuda to Munia. He is Munia's eldest brother-in-law. He can't be here this evening either. He has sent us a letter, which parts of it I will now read. Reminiscing about when you are 18, you know you are an adult and someone who is 9 is a child. So it was with Munia and I when I first saw her. She was sprinting and dancing without a pause from one end to the other on the first floor balcony of 52 Amherst Street in North Kolkata. Who is this kid? I asked Ganesh Dadu, Ganesh Bhut, my maternal grandmother, Punnalata Chakraborty's first cousin. He asked and answered in surprise, don't you know, she is Shona's daughter. Shona Dida, Lolita Das, as she was formerly known after her marriage to Amol Das, was Ganesh Dadu's sister. This was at the house of the Boses, built by Munia's maternal grandfather, Hemendra Mohan Bose, a pioneer Bengali industrialist. Ganesh Dadu and Shona Dida were among the 14 children of Hemendra Mohan and his wife Mrinalini, who was a sister of the iconic Upendra Kishore Ray. Among them, Nitin Ghosh, a winner of the Dada Saheb Phalke Award of 1977, brought to Indian cinema quality and recognition as an art form. Along with his brother Mukul Ghosh, a pioneer in sound recording, he introduced playback singing in Indian films. One of Munia's aunts, Malati Ghoshal, was a noted singer. Shonadita herself had a deep and resonant voice and sang beautifully. Besides, she had a warm and friendly disposition, which endeared her to all who came in contact with her. Amol Dadu was the rock of her life. Munia, who grew up in an ambience of multidimensional creativity, was a free spirit, spontaneous and exuberant. Moreover, she had a mind of her own, and not one to take nonsense from anyone. Then he ends with this paragraph. Munia is no longer in our midst. The little girl who was sprinting and dancing when I first saw her must now be doing so in the world beyond our world, in the timelessness that is eternity, in spontaneous joy and freedom.
Yet, be not proud, though some have called thee mighty and dreadful, for thou art not so. For those whom thou thinkest thou dost overthrow, die not good, nor yet canst thou do me. From rest and sleep, which but thy pictures be much pleasure, then from thee much more must flow, and soonest our best men with thee to go, rest of their bones and soul's delivery. Thou art slave to fate, chance, kings, and desperate men, and dost with poison, war, and sickness dwell. And for your charms can make us sleep as well and better than last door. Why swellest thou then? One short sleep past, we wake eternally, and death shall be no more. Death, thou shalt die.
Never a dull moment with her in company. She was a keen observer with unfailing curiosity and noticed every minor detail in the house. Earlier, she had done quite a few road trips with us to off-beat, isolated places, staying in government inspection bungalows with or without electricity and with the barest of essentials, sometimes even under adverse and scary conditions. But never a dull moment. From collecting firewood, fetching water from a stream, or cooking under a tree, she was game for it. And ever ready to taste the local brew. Munia meant fun, so I would sometimes affectionately call her Funia, and her beautiful dream world, Funia in Dunia. Even on the 6th of March this year, when I was driving to Orissa, I called her at Woodlands to inquire after her health. She was keen to hear about our trip and made us promise to take her along on our next outing. But God had other plans for her. He ends with a little poem. Adios, amigo. Adios, my friend. The road we have traveled has come to an end. Away from these memories, my life has spent. Adios, amigo, adios, amigo. Good to Shana. Their son and daughter have also written 2 little letters to her. First is from the daughter, Kushi. Dearest Munia Pishi, I am deeply saddened at losing you. The last time we met in August of last year, you brought me a gift that I turned down. I was moving to Germany and was determined to travel light. I wish I had kept it. It would have reminded me of that day. You seemed frail, but in good spirits, as you always were when you visited us. We had some nibbles and shared some laughs on that night. You sent me a message after a month or so, inquiring about my well-being and sharing stories of your time in Europe. Hitchhiking and eating freshly baked bread were some that I remember. Over the years, you kept in touch through messages. Some were long and detailed, and others were random nuggets of information. Either way, that was your way of showing love and appreciation. You have been a big part of our lives and will continue to be so. I will miss you dearly. Cheers to you wherever you are. Pushi. The last one is from Bhutto's son, Ziki, who also writes a song for Edgar. My dearest Munia Pushi, you truly colored my childhood. I vividly remember my school days when you would take me to movies or to lunch in your little black forest. It always felt so cool. You always looked so pretty and stylish. I remember how you would fill up the room when we went on vacation with the scent of freshly brewed black coffee. How can I ever forget those wonderful trips to Sikkim, Kalimpong, Puri, and many others? I couldn't be there when you moved on, but I want to tell you now that you were and always will be a big part of my life. May you find peace wherever you are.
Hi everyone. Here we have gathered to talk about Munia, and I miss her. She was one of the first people who I started talking to and discussing dance and how to write dance, what should be an Indian dance studies looking at. So many of you may know already, but I wanted to tell you once again and read from the essay that she had written for us for this this book called Traversing Traditions, Celebrating Dance in India. It's published by Routledge. This, where she herself is described as, by the bio that she submitted, Ranjita Karlekar teaches modern dance, ballet and jazz at the Calcutta School of Music and is a resource person at 2 community programs. She's trained in Bharatanatyam, Kathakali and modern dance. During her postgraduate studies in dance ethnology at UCLA, she also trained in West African and jazz apart from modern dance. She also says that her career as a dance educator includes teaching modern dance and movement for theatre in several schools. She also talks about how she was a research fellow at the National Museum of Ethnology, Osaka. She has co-edited and contributed to Damaru, Festival of Traditional Theatre and Theatre Crafts of Eastern India, 1989, Karlekar is Network Chair for Research and Documentation of the West Bengal chapter of Dance Alliance India. So I knew Munia Di from various sources. One of them was, of course, I have to thank British Council for having brought together these diverse group of individuals who all were, very great dance enthusiasts in many manners, I should say. And Munia Di was one of us, and we were all together through different kinds of circumstances. And she also became, as she has written here, Research and Documentation Chair for the West Bengal chapter of Dance Alliance India in 2004. Now, what I want to read from is, one section in this book that she has contributed an essay. And she writes, as a dance educator and advocate of the contribution that learning modern dance can make to human development, particularly in the secondary school years, I'm concerned about the implications of this limiting of behavioral and cultural choices. This narrow, almost obsessive focus on media-driven performances and skill. Is it conducive to shaping? Is it conducive to shaping creative imagination and talent among young people? Is this a virus that is first making itself felt among parents and students who opt for Western modern dance training but later will spread to a large canvas? Several questions confront the modern dance teacher. How should we structure the training so that even shorter terms of learning is beneficial? Would the adaptation of pop dances stimulate the child or result in his or her dumbing down? If the rigorous technique training that is currently imparted is toned down, would students who are aiming at dancing or dance teaching careers not lose out? They would, after all, be developing modern dance. Most importantly, the question is, can the educational value of modern dance learning be preserved unless it becomes an option within regular school learning? So this is where I think of Munia Di, thinking very deep about future of dance, trying to understand what dance would mean in a larger context beyond just performative structures and proscenium presentations. And I remember you and I miss you, Munia Di. I've read this article in the last few days many times, and I feel that you should have written more. Missing you and sharing my grief with all of you present for this occasion. I'm sorry I'm not there in person. Thank you.
I'm Shambik, but for Madam Karlikar, Ranjita Karlikar, I'm always Ronnie. It's a very unusual moment that I'm doing this video right now. I find myself very unfitting to it. However, I will be saying few words. So I'll take this opportunity to celebrate her teachings, her contribution in many of us artists, at the same time, how I remember her through my 25 years of association, through thick and thin of my life and in various aspects of my life. So in this occasion, I'm going to read few lines for her which I have written for her, because I'm afraid that I may fumble in my words when I express her through my memories. So please allow me to celebrate her. I can hardly recall anyone before Madam Ranjita Karlikar to introduce the word or the concept of modern dance to Kolkata, or any other concept form of dance such as jazz, ballet, modern to Kolkata. My ingress to the world of dance, such dances, are through her guidances. My 25 years of association with her, if not a continuous one, however, an invisible thread of an eternal bonding kept us connected, always, no matter what I was doing, wherever I was, and in which situation or condition I was. She was like a mother or a guardian for me, wherever I was. I know many of us who has been with her and now working actively in the world of arts fondly recalls with conviction her lessons she imparted and bestowed on us, which I recall as dedication, determination, conviction, and no compromise to hard work. Her departure in these times indeed creates a vacuum in the world of movement arts and perception of such artistic practice in sensible ways. My prayers are with Jojo sir. I always call him Jojo sir. May God give him strength and the purpose and the meaning to move on. I am sure that he knows that Madam Karlikar is always beside him and always be with him forever. I pray for her soul, that may her soul rest in peace and guide us all through at her creative best. Thank you.
Good evening. This is quite an emotional moment, because I was one of those first students dancing at the bar or with Munia doing Graham exercises on the floor, or having many concerts over here. I knew I'd probably be emotional, but I didn't want to hide it, because Munia would always tell us, as an artist, you embrace those emotions and you show them. So I'm not ashamed of these tears, because I think grief just shows how much of love and care a person had in your life, and this influence will stay for a very, very long time. For those of you who don't know me, I didn't just take dance as a hobby, but like Ronnie, pursued it in fact as a career. I got to study in Taiwan, and then started a dance festival in India, and currently I'm based in London. And all of these adventures, usually you put your latest achievement last, but I'd have to say that being at Calcutta School of Music and under Ranjita Karlikar, or Munia, as we call her, is probably one of the most important and impactful periods. I got to meet her in 1995, quite soon after the class started, and for 5 years I was here, but even after, always stayed associated, because she was like that. She kind of created a dance family. And as you can see, even with Ronnie, should still be in touch, whether, physically sending messages and calls, or invisibly just being that inspiration for you. And so while some of you have mentioned about her many talents, but with dance in particular, her legacy really lives on. Her name is there in Calcutta, in India, and it will always be there. For me at such a young age to discover, about Merce Cunningham and John Cage and watch movies, and, we'd have also at the end a kind of concert, but also these dance parties and sandwiches and things. So all of these things that go around being a dancer and the relationships of an artist, I think she imparted to me. I still remember her stories about traveling and backpacking, her beautiful home, and all of the decor there. So all these tiny details about art and design and life and culture and the important things lives on with me. One of the biggest kind of gifts, though, I think, was the sense of improvisation. For those of you who are artists or choreography, that's the kind of skill. It's almost hard. I've been in so many dance academies around the world now. It's something quite difficult to develop as an artist, but she did that with us. And that lives on. And also, she was the one who taught me about creating a dance journal and writing. And I recently submitted my dissertation and actually got an award for it, which is an autoethnography, the skill of writing. It goes back to when I was age 11 and could write down about dance class daily. And she'd read that, dedicatedly read that, write comments, and she took such a personal interest. I know there would be many students who, if they would be here, they would say whether they took up dance professionally or not, that class changed their lives. And so I'm so grateful for everything that she's done. And like Ronnie said, I do think her spirit lives on. It will always be with me in rehearsal studio and knowing the long practice. I sometimes wonder, why do I have to come for so many hours of practice? But all of that discipline, and even learning about her, yes, she would go to the gym and do this and do that. It really stuck with me, and at a very early age left this very strong kind of impression. And I'm just so grateful to you, Munia. I love you, and you will always be with us. Thanks.
I think my earliest memories of Muniama date back to when she and Joka came back from their travels in Europe. And I remember as a kid being fascinated by their stories, by Muniama's long hair, by her clothes, this patchwork skirt that she would wear, her jewelry. She was always beautiful and very distinctively stylish. She was my cool aunt. I was a little scared of her as a kid because she could be stern, a little standoffish. But as I grew older, I realized that she had this much softer side that she would hide sometimes. She wasn't always full of wit and wisdom like my Uncle Joka was and is. But when she did say something, I think it stuck with me. Like I remember this one time when I was scared, waffling in an indecision about something for the nth time. And she got very impatient with me and she said, Tim, when are you going to stop being scared? When are you going to live your life? And I still keep telling myself that when I'm feeling fearful in her voice. And I told Tara the other day when she said, I'm scared. And I said, you know what my aunt Muniama would say. And I think that I took dance with her a couple of times. And those were the times when I really entered into her world and she was in her element. And I loved it. I didn't become a dancer clearly, but I loved the world of dance and modern dance, especially, and watching all those amazing performers like Pina Bausch, Mercy Cunningham, participating in this Buto dance workshop, so many really unforgettable experiences. And as a young person who often felt lost and alienated, those were spaces of hope and inspiration when these artists from all over the world were doing this powerful collaboration. And it just opened up this window to these other worlds. And I just realized that that's one thing that Muniama did for me. And in our last trip to Kolkata, saw this other side of her, more grandmotherly. She loved Tara and Raj, and they loved her back. And those were precious family times, and I hope we'd have more. But I'm glad we had that. We'll miss you, Muniama. Lots of love. from me, Tara, and Raj.
A summer evening, almost 50 years ago, an extremely good-looking Indian couple knocked on my door in Copenhagen. I had no idea who they were, but they came with greetings from a friend of mine that they had met in Greece. And that's how one of the longest and deepest friendships of my life began. Of course, Munia and Jojo were an inseparable entity in that friendship, but it was Munia who were the more outgoing person, and she who immediately connected to you and embraced you with her warmth, her wit and elegance. Munia had a fantastic social talent and a strong social curiosity. She remembered all the people that she met in Denmark on that first visit, and she continued to take an interest in their lives afterwards, and they never forgot her. When I started visiting Calcutta in the following years, it was Munia who took me by the hand and opened a whole new world for me. She made sure that I met all of her friends and insisted to teach me everything she knew about the place, people, and customs. Munia's hospitality and welcoming ways is something I will never forget. The house in Jodhpur Park for a time became like a second home for me. I especially loved the enchanted long mornings with coffee and talk at the dining table or in the sofa, while she was preparing her countless to-do notes. Munia took me into her life and made me feel like family, in such a way that in my own family, Munia for a time became a household name, even though my parents only met her once when she came to dinner in their home in Copenhagen on her route to study in LA. This brings me to another important side of Munia, her love of art. Dance especially, of course, from Kathakali to modern forms. She was a cultural bearer, both as a person and a teacher. For a year, we exchanged long letters where art was a central subject. She had knowledge, taste, and style. Munia contained multitudes, as Dylan sings. I'm endlessly grateful that I got to know her, and I'm grateful to fate that I got to see her and hug her for one last time not so long ago. And one more thing to Jojo, who is the other half of all this. I cannot even begin to imagine the loss that you must feel. But I hope you maybe can find strength in knowing that Munia is still here in all of us who knew her, and that we are all here for you. Love to you all from Copenhagen.
Like Vanessa and Ronnie, I'm also a student of Munia in a very different way. I first met Munia in 1990 when I was 14 years old. She had come to choreograph Piper, as Suman mentioned in the video that was read out. She'd come to choreograph Piper at St. James' School. That was a mega musical that we had done. Phyllis was directing, and that was the first time that I even knew of her existence. The first time I encountered any other kind of dancing, or at least the kind of dancing that Munia brought, because I'm trained in Kathak, so there's a very specific kind of world that you are entering. And then Munia brought aspects of modern dance, aspects of jazz, a certain kind of energy and fun in movement, that I had not encountered before, and that also infected all these other boys who would not have been caught dead dancing unless Munia the epic in the picture and the content to do it. At that time, I also realized that she knew my guru, Smriti Karna, and came home to me that we have had in Calcutta a generation of dancers and dance makers, dance thinkers who really did not see divisions between dance. I think Vanessa, you will agree with me in that. You will agree with me in that. Munia was very much a part of that they saw dance as one world with many, many, many colors. And I think that's what led her to train with Govindan Kuti, but also allowed her to tell him, I'm training in Kathakali, but not to perform Kathakali, but to learn other things, so I can do modern dance. And he, being the guru he was, saw the value in that kind of a student and continued to train her. And those are the kinds of things, the kinds of lessons I think that Munia, just in sharing her life with us, has left with us. How do you view dance? How do you view a life in art? After 1990, we sort of lost touch, and then she literally dropped back into my life in 2002 when we were, I was working with the Seagull Foundation at that time, and a director from Italy has come down to create a site-specific work at Shubhavana Rajwari, so I was also part of that. And we were in rehearsals in Seagull, and somebody said, a senior dancer wants to come and observe. And in walked Munia. So she sat in a corner and observed, not for very long. The next day, she was in the piece and she was part of the final cast to perform. And that was just who she was. She would come in, she would see value, and she would just jump in. And I remember her in this bright blue lehenga and blouse, performing the role of a madam with aplomb. So to be in the presence of that kind of fun-loving energy, fun-loving on the one hand, and deeply, deeply, deeply philosophical and thoughtful and inspirational on the other, has been such a gift. Since then, she's followed my work, and she's been part of many discussions, many meetings. I remember fondly, especially we saw that photograph of her sitting with Veena Bausch. I remember the last time Veena Bausch was in Calcutta sitting at the dinner at the residence of the director of Shubhavana, and she and Veena, of course, smoking cigarette after cigarette after cigarette, but having a ball doing it. And recently, as recently as 2019, I invited her to two sessions on American modern dance at the Maximum Nogara. We were doing a collaboration with them. And of course, there were others who signed up for that, but I would say the amount I learned from her, not just in terms of fact, but in terms of, again, a journey in dance, how dance shifts perspectives, how dance makes culture happen, how dance impacts people, and is always constantly pushing towards a world that is more beautiful, if nothing else. That was really, really beautiful. And for her at that age, not having danced for some time by then, to come there and get people who've never done modern dance or any dance in their lives to say, come on, now do this exercise. Now stretch your leg in that direction. Now put your leg up there. All that happening. And people just responded to her with the same kind of warmth that she brought to them. So there was never anyone who said, nah, I'm in a photo. Everybody jumped into it with equal sort of participation, whether they could do it or not. Her knowledge, her experience, her passion, her generosity, and I think one thing that I especially value in her is her complete humility. There is so much that she has done in her life. So many people she's impacted. She carried so much knowledge, and yet you won't see her name up in lights anywhere. That is unfortunately the world we live in, but as Vanessa said, we carry her in our hearts, and we will carry her in our work as we carry on. Through the pandemic, she would randomly call me and say, what are you doing, man? How are you? And we'd have long conversations about anything. And I lost both my parents last year, and she sent me regular messages after that. And this was just last year when she was also in, only once did she ever mention her own illness. And I just want to end by reading a message that she sent me in October, end of October. This was after both my parents had gone, and I was just getting back to work, and I had sent her, on WhatsApp, the kind of things we forward, whatever we're doing. And she said, so happy you are back in action. I'm sure this would help you heal. It happened to me after Ma passed on. Would like to share, but at another time. Unfortunately, that other time never happened. She went on to say, I think emotional journeys need to be shared. We come out richer in our relationships and stronger. And that's how I'd like to wrap up. Thank you.
You share another DVD that you do then?
I met Munia in September 2019, just on the cusp of the coronavirus outbreak. I felt so at home talking with Munia in Kolkata. Through her, I really learned what dance means in India. It was mind-expanding as she talked about her experiences studying with the legendary Anna Halprin and her PhD studies in California. She led me to understand that she was instrumental in shifting the mindset of some of those important university supervisors who sat arguing about her line of questioning in her thesis. They asked Munia to leave the room as they held on tightly to their American modern dance values. And she was this young grad from India who challenged them in unexpected ways. This unassuming, humble woman held an avalanche of knowledge that I really wanted to uncover. Once I got home, I approached JNU about the potential of publishing a written interview. They agreed. I sent Munia some questions and she wrote to say she'd made some short, rough notes. But once Corona hit, things fell off the agenda and neither of us followed up. She wrote back, "So glad you've come into my life. Please stay there. Love." Munia seemed to me to be an artist who didn't fall neatly into the mainstream nor avant-garde ecosystems of dance. Those rough notes might still be sitting around somewhere, and if they're found, I'm sure they hold great wisdom and vision to challenge what dance can be for the next generation. To everybody there, sending all my love to her family and friends and colleagues. Missing you dearly. Thanks.
In the month of May, if I recall, end of May 1979, we formed a dance theatre group called the Dance Theatre Kolkata or Calcutta. And Munia was a pivotal character to that. We had many productions very successfully executed under the aegis of Max Miller Bhavan, Kolkata. At that time, I had a very special bond with her. I remember in a particular production, we needed some black and white slide pictures to project it along with the dance. It was an audiovisual along with real-time dance and motion pictures and light and light and sound, and then you have slides, show and all that. So at the meeting, it was found for 2-3 occasions, a photographer, Mohandruda, could not come. So it was a big question from Carmen Peternastro, who was our director of the group. She asked, what to do now? Who can do this? Obviously, it was a bit uncomfortable situation for her because Mohandruda was introduced to Max Miller Bhavan by Munia. And I do not know when they say what to do with this particular item. So I put my hand up and said, I'll do it. So everybody was quite baffled. How could I do this job? It was, when I look back, obviously it was a turning point for my photographic career. I must say that I was not a photographer. I was a trained actor, a dancer, but that particular point, my mind said I could do it. And believe me, it was Munia. I do not know. She trusted me, she believed in me. And she said, okay, I'll get the camera for you tomorrow. For the first time I was using an SLR. She handed over her camera, Ashai Pentax. Ashai Pentax Spotmatic, I still remember. It had only one lens, a normal lens. And when she gave me the camera, she reminded me, be careful. It is very prized possession of ours. Then she mentioned she and Jojoda traveled in the 70s and in Europe. And when they were traveling, they used this camera to record all the places that they have visited. I've seen those pictures later on, but it was such a selfless approach. she handed over the camera, an unknown guy. Believe me, I come from a small town. I was not very well known to her in that way. Well, obviously they have a better judgment. She gave it to me and I executed that pretty successfully. And that was the beginning of my career. I should say that is the beginning of my career. And I never looked back. Theatre or dance theatre could not take me somewhere where I wanted to reach. But when I look back now, after 40 odd years, that small moment is still alive in my mind with a lot of warmth. And during the production, I must say that she was not only a dancer, not only a colleague, but she was a great organizer, very punctual, very caring, very concerning, and selfless. The thing that I look back and I am deeply pained. In today's world, we do not find those kind of people.
Munia to me has been a friend, a mentor, and she was also the president of my organization, Sparsh Studio for Performing Arts. I got to know her in 2000 when we did the dance movement course together. It was a 15-day intensive course. That's when we all got together, and I realized how generous, how encouraging, and how knowledgeable Munia was. It was through her and others in the group that I realized that there was more to dance than just performing. She was always very encouraging, and her vivacious nature won all our hearts. When I approached her to be the president of my organization, without any question, she said, "I believe in you," and she did agree to become one. I have shared a very special relationship with her, more of a friend than a mentor. The age gap actually never bothered us. She would adapt and mold herself just the way we wanted. She would come to my place and spend hours with my grandmother. My grandmother also called me a friend. I don't know what they spoke about, because my grandmother only spoke in Hindi. But that was Munia. She always said, as a dancer, as a performing artist, it is important to hold your head up high. Always be appropriately dressed and be true to your art form. She insisted I wear red nail polish, but I've never got down to wear it. Maybe I'll wear it. We've had many days together that we've spent together. We've been on cinema dates, spa dates. She insisted that we go for a pedicure. And of course, she chose red nail polish, and I would choose my silver or a beige. And she would like, this doesn't even, you can't even see it, you don't waste money. We went shopping, we went eating out. She was very fond of going to restaurants. So we've had a lot of time that we've shared together.
Hello everyone. I'm coming to you from the unceded land of the Wallumedegal people, also known as Sydney, Australia. I think it was 1984 when I first met Munia in Copenhagen at my dear friend Morten's flat. I'm sure Morten is here too this evening, courtesy of Zoom. Yes, high up on the 5th floor, there she was. So beautiful, with such quiet grace and dignity, and such fun. It quickly became clear we shared a great deal. Firstly, a love for dance. She was en route to UCLA to study dance ethnology, and I was and am a dancer. But we also shared organising. She was an organiser of the Calcutta Jazz Festival, just as I was organising at the Copenhagen Theatre Festival. So we shared these two passions. Then I visited her shortly afterwards at UCLA in Los Angeles, where she was in the process of settling in. And I felt again her quiet integrity, her poise, but also a sense of aloneness. She knew I was going to be visiting Kolkata on my way back from Australia and Japan, so she ensured that I would be welcomed into her family, even though she wasn't going to be there. So I arrived at the old house on Rashbihari Avenue, met by a long line of women queuing to receive milk for their babies through the Calcutta Social Project, started by Jojo's mother, Kalyani Kalaka. Welcome to the family. Jojo, I think at that time you were in UCLA, but I met your mother and adoptive father, also Poli and Chandra, and a lot of others. There was so much going on, but I could clearly feel how Munia was very present, even if she was so far away, and I sensed everyone missed her greatly. I fell in love with this magical house, this hive of radicality in literature, politics, and art. So this was the start of our 40 years connection. We concocted seemingly endless projects together. Starting in '93, Munia set about organizing workshops and performances for me and my fellow collaborators. These happened at the Goethe Institute, also here at the Calcutta School of Music, and a range of other places. She gathered performers and dancers, experienced and inexperienced, all keen to explore the work from Japan, body weather, my practice. But we had an important parallel strand involving children from the Calcutta Social Project, doing a series of workshops over the years. At the first one, in the back garden of the old house, photographer Vivek de Burman caught the children like a swarming vortex of birds. They were sharp imitators, capturing our movements like lightning and throwing them straight back at us. And Dashi Dalek, the darling black Labrador, ruled the flat. He and Munia devoted to each other. We used to train on the rooftop in the early morning, alongside Dashi sniffing in the breeze, after which we came down for the most important part of any trip, the MMs. Magical, mellow mornings with Munia. This was the real heart of things. Gathered around the breakfast table together, Munia introduced us to new herbs and foods, different ways of cooking, while sifting through the plans for the next days, or going over what had happened. All punctuated by us laughing our heads off. We found delight in everything. Then Munia's little black and gleaming Morris Minor would be hauled out of the garage to take us hurtling around sites and special places all over the city, or meeting artists or producers. And we exchanged gifts. Munia's mother's shawl is most precious to me. Like me, she too was an only child, and she spoke of her parents with great warmth and softness. She was measured, intensely sensitive, but also able to be completely tough and wacky. Bold, yet shy. She contributed to the collective with verve, yet was somehow singular. She was very much her own person, insightful and discerning. Fiercely proud of Calcutta, sharing it wonderfully, but equally very much a global citizen with a wide perspective. She was an inspiring and wonderfully generous friend. I'd like to close with an extract from a quote given to me by my mother. It's by Greek poet Callimachus of Cyrene, librarian of the Great Library at Alexandria, from about 260 BC. They told me, Heraclitus, they told me you were dead. They brought me bitter news to hear and bitter tears to shed. I wept as I remembered how often you and I had tired the sun with talking and sent him down the sky. And now that thou art lying at rest, yet are thy voices, thy nightingales, awake. For death he taketh all away, but them he cannot take. Yes, Munia, your nightingales, full of knowledge and feeling, will keep singing to us. Thank you, everyone.
I have known Munia, as we all used to call her, since our dance therapy days, dance therapy workshop that we did together way back in 2000 in Kolkata. Ever since then, the bonding has been very strong. And Munia was such an integral part of that group that it is strange to imagine that she is no more. Munia always was very friendly, very warm, and I remember the long chatting sessions we used to have whenever I used to visit Kolkata. Munia, I will miss you. We will all miss you. The group will not be the same without you. Rest in peace. Rest in peace, dear Munia.
Although the last time I met Munia auntie was almost 20 years ago, I still have very, very fond memories of her. I trained in jazz ballet under her tutelage at Calcutta School of Music for almost 2 years. And I still remember the excitement of getting to class in time after my school hours. I was a late learner and almost all the students were ahead of me in class, but she made me feel so comfortable and so at ease when I went for these classes twice a week. And the joy that I felt in class of learning new things, of freely flitting about and rolling about, expressing all sorts of emotions in class. This is something I still recall with great fondness, and I wish I could have continued longer. I remember being in awe of Munia auntie, just her posture, her demeanor, her movement, just her spirit as an individual, how she spoke to me, how she made me feel. That's something I remember very clearly, even now. I recall how she was very firm in correcting and also very firm in appreciating. She was so proud when me or any of my classmates did well. Munia auntie and her dance lessons saw me through a very difficult time in life, and I'm so grateful that I got to have her in my life and spend that time with her.
It's very difficult to say about Munia. As we all like Suman, me, Murmidi, and Shodhudar, Munia, we all made same time in 2000 in a workshop, dance movement therapy workshop. That's how we know each other and our bond stayed remained. And I remember one thing, I think Munia all the time, like আমাকে সারাক্ষণ বলতো এটা করছিস ওখানে যাচ্ছিস সারাক্ষণ ঘুরে বেড়াচ্ছিস খাওয়া দাওয়া করছিস না, like all the time. Even when I called Munia in last phase, I told Shuman that as soon as I called, like we had a lot of like Munia has such a personality. You all hear about that she connect with people with a very special relation. Each of us, like when Vikram spoke about Munia, everybody has a very, very special connection with Munia. So when I called in February, Munia said, "Huh? তুই দেখছি কিছুই জানিস না?" Like, so I called back. I said, okay, Munia, I'm sorry, maybe I call back Suman, what happened? Tell me, then I will call Munia. So we really shared this kind of relationship. And then again, Munia called back, Shon, and she called me, Shon better. Okay, Shunte. Now so this is Munia. And when I asked, when I met Munia, so I asked abruptly, like me, Munia, describe yourself. Explain yourself, how you describe yourself. So Munia say, okay, Shoini, I am Bard. I am Munia, the Bard. So that really stays with us. It's very difficult to say she was, but she is a free bird, and she inspired us. What really inspired us that she lived her life with her own tongue, which is very, very special and inspiring. So thank you, Munia Di.
I'd like to mention one thing that at one stage we had something that came from the US, Satyajit Roy Chaudhary, and we didn't express this, but it was done for this program, and that was a live performance, and that was him playing the saxophone. You know, so that, and so Munia is one of our favorite songs, Manha Di Karneval. So that's how I know them, because I inherited the jazz festival from Satyajit and Munia and that crowd. They were the earlier generation. I took the patent from them. But anyway, I won't keep you very long. We've kind of overshot our time by a long way. But basically, I'd like to say that it's almost poetic that we had a Norwester today. You know, Munia is like that. You know, a force of nature. And like any kind of natural phenomena, it doesn't go away. She doesn't go away. She lives on in our minds and our hearts. So that's the way I'll always remember her, multifaceted person. I didn't know so much about her dance side of it, but I was lucky enough to work with her on the festivals and things like that, and it was great fun. She used to come into rooms and you know, completely occupy the space, fill the room up with her personality. And I won't miss her. The reason I will not miss her is because she's not going away anyway. So thank you so much again for coming. It fills my heart to see that so many people have remember her with such great fondness. And with that, I'll close this.
Amar